All right, let's go to, let's see, go there. Whoops. This is the part that's always the hardest part.
Clicking that share screen.
Yeah, let's see, share screen. There we go. Let's see if it. Okay, that's Anthony. I just let in. Let's see, why is it not? There we go, share. Let's start with this. Share that screen. All right, so first off, we've got is our good old West Coast School coming up. So just a reminder, Mike is going to be teaching West Coast School Photoshop 0 to 60. We've got an AI program. We've got some macro. We've got some lighting, different types of lighting. One with Tim Meyer, one with Pete Rizak. So you name it, we got it. So just as a reminder, West Coast School is June 9 through 14, and we are still taking signups.
And the Photoshop 0 to 60 has a couple openings left, so you got to jump in now.
Okay, so let's stop that. Now let's go to Lightroom. Back to there. Share screen. And Lightroom. Okay, here we go. Share. So many things. There we go. Okay, so HDR color effects. HDR program is part of the NIK group of filters. And so what we can do is you can launch this from Lightroom or from Photoshop, either way. I'm going to start with the Lightroom version, and then I'm going to go into Photoshop and show you the tone mapping when you have just a single image. So there's two different programs they have. So this is the multi one. So what we're going to do is the first thing you do is you select the images that you've shot. Now, for me, what I did is when I'm shooting the real estate images, I'm shooting 5 images, 2 under, 2 over, and 1 neutral exposure. So basically I've got, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to select all of the images. So there's the 5 images. And then I'm going to right click, go to export, and I'm going to drop it into NIK 6 HDR effects. And then because I'm coming from Lightroom, and this would be the same for Bridge, is that I want it to come in with the Lightroom adjustments that I've already made, if I've made any. A lot of times I will only adjust the what am I adjusting? the the color correction. I'll do a color correction to it, and I'll just make sure that that looks okay before I go in, because that way I adjust all of the images the same. So I take it into HDR, and here we go. Takes a second to launch.
So say, Mel, you have two under exposed,
2 under, 2 over, and 1. And if you look at the bottom here, you'll see there's -2, -1, 0, +1, +2.
Okay.
So it's going to bring it. So the way I shoot HDR is I shoot 5 images. You know, you can shoot 3, 5, 7, 9 images, and then you just bring all of them in depending on however many you're shooting. So I'm going to go here, and it tells me that some of the images are a little dark. Yeah, I know, that's why I'm doing it. You can do ghost reductions here, so that if you are not on a tripod, it will try to align everything. You can also click on chromatic aberrations, and you can see there's a slight difference here.
Mel, we're just seeing the Lightroom catalog.
Oh, you're not? Oh, why is it? All right, why is it? Okay, let's stop share, and then let's share again.
Share desktop.
Well, that's what I'm doing, but it's okay. Come on, share. Hello, share. And wants this one. Okay, so now you're seeing
that's better.
All right. So here you go. So you see you got the -2, -1, even shot, +1, +2. So you can kind of see these are the 5 exposures there. Over here, it tells you that there's a darker one. You could adjust the exposure on it if you want, but I never touch that because that's the whole point of shooting the 5 different frames. I want everything to be aligned. I want ghost reduction, and sometimes, you know, that comes into play if you're shooting outdoors, you've got a little bit of wind, or if you're not shooting on a tripod. And then you could also do chromatic aberrations, and you can see it did adjust the color just a little bit. So, you know, I went ahead and clicked on that, and then I'm going to go down here and I'm going to click on create HDR. So this is then going to take us into the next portion of the HDR program. Processing. Now these are full-size TIFFs, so they do take a little bit longer. But I mean, considering they're full size. Okay, so now we're into the portion of the HDR program where you really get to play. Now they have a bunch of recipes up here already. You can click all. If you click on the artistic version, you know, they've got different things here. So they've got different setups. You know, you can kind of see what it does. Click on it. You can see what it does to your photo. If you were outdoors, you know, you've got landscape, you've got surreal. I mean, that really throws it out there as bizarre looking stuff. I mean, there's some interesting, this is the sinister one, which I actually kind of like, but not if you're doing this for a client. They will somehow not get the humor of it.
Unless it's a haunted house.
Yeah, exactly. But when you're doing this for a real estate agent, yeah, they might not see the humor in it. And then you've got a balanced version here. If you want to brighten it up, I've got a brightened version here that I tend to use a lot. And then I'll come over here to the exposure, and then I might just drop it down just a little bit to give me what I'm looking for here. And then, you know, you can also go up here at the top. You can do a split screen so you can see a before and an after, or if you prefer to see it above and be, you know, below, you have different ways to do it. I generally just want to see the whole thing. I want to see what it's going to look. But over here on the right side, you've got just a ton of controls. Your tone compression. I mean, you know, this is how much HDR effect you're putting on that image. And you can see as you slide it over to the left, I mean, it really changes it. I try to keep it a little bit neutral. And the same thing with the method. You know, I go under because if you go to the other side, it gets a little wonky. The depth, you can just see what it does. And, you know, and like I say, and then you can also just turn it off, but I kind of like it about there. Detail, again, you've got all sorts of adjustments here. You can see it grunges it up. You go too far. Drama, you know, same type of thing. I usually keep it down toward the lower part, but I mean, you know, some of these just go just overboard, but it kind of depends on what you want to do with the image. And then of course you can adjust exposure. You got all these others. You can open up shadows. You can reduce highlights, and you can see on the window on the left side there, you can see how it adjusts the outside of the highlights. Saturation, do you want to really, you know, play with it? Do you want to tone it down? I mean, you know, I kind of keep it, you know, just a little bit of saturation. So you've got all of these different controls, and you can also do a save the preset. So say you come up, you've made all these adjustments, and you want to keep that preset so that when you do a whole string of images that are all going to be the same, you can apply the same treatment all the way across. So you go down here and hit save preset and name it. And we're going to just call this interior. And it'll save with all your local adjustments. Hit save. And now that is over here. And if I click this little star right there, it'll now appear on my favorites. I unclick it, doesn't show on the favorites. So there's, you know, different ways that you can have that show. And then if you you can see here's favorites, and I've got a couple that I've already picked here. So they will show up under your favorites here, or, you know, show up under all, or you can go down to custom, and there's the custom one we just did. So now I'm going to say apply, and it's now going to apply what we just did. And what's really nice about this is it will then take it and put it right back into the stack into Lightroom. And so now I've got to go back in and share Lightroom. There we go, share. And there's the image right there. So it's come back into Lightroom. And oh, I forget which, let's see, what day is that on? April 16th. So if I go back up here, April, what was it? Oh, that's today. That's not the right
Mel,
one.
you said that would work on Bridge. Would that work with Camera Raw also?
I do not know, because I do not use Camera Raw.
Okay.
So I don't have an answer. Or, you know, what you can do, and let's see, God, I love the way this goes. You got to stop share and then reshare Lightroom. I mean, Photoshop share. And let's get rid of that. We already know all about that. But, you know, you can also go here and just go right over here to your little NIK thing, and you can launch HDR right here.
We're just seeing Photoshop 2024. We're not seeing all the other stuff.
Why are you not seeing that? Why do you not see the little, okay, well, let's do it this way. Okay. There you go. Filter. NIK collection, and then here's HDR Pro down here, and you can launch it from right there. So if you have all your images in Lightroom or in Photoshop, you can launch it right from there. Now in this case here, it just did the one image, but if I go back, cancel, and if I click on tone mapping,
We're not seeing that.
I don't know why that won't show. It's showing on my screen. It's okay. See, and tone mapping is not one of the selections down here. Well, on your little NIK bar, which, why is it? I don't know why the NIK bar doesn't show on.
Try unsharing and then share desktop instead of just the programs, and it should bring up everything that's on your desktop, whatever you're looking at. Should. Can't guarantee it, but should.
All right, let's see.
There we go.
All right, but it's not okay. Now where to go?
Command tab. There it is.
There it is.
Hey, there it is.
What do you know? Okay. So down here, you can launch it right from Photoshop, from, you know, the little NIK tab. You've got HDR effects here, which is merging multiple images. And you've got HDR effects, which is tone mapping when you've only got a single image. So a single image is kind of cool because it brings it in. And oh, look at that. It's actually working. Okay, so now you've got the image here that you're looking at. It's just a single. And again, you can go back up to the presets and you can look at them all. Or let's see, this one here. Let's see, was it this one? Yeah, there we go. So there's when, you know, you can use that sinister one, you know, here, and you can see, you know, there's with it, there's without it. In fact, I think if you can kind of see what it does to the image. So even though you only have a single image, this program still can come in and give you some, you know, interesting effects. Look what it did to the landscape down here in comparison. You know, it's just a single capture, but look at the detail it gives you. And then obviously the clouds, it really brings in the clouds.
A lot more contrast.
A lot more contrast, a lot more detail. And, you know, you look at the original capture here and it's, you know, it's okay. but this really kind of takes it up. Now, the one thing that you have to be careful of if you're doing this is that look at the haloing that it is going to create. So that is the one thing that when you start applying some of these filters and you really apply it to the max, because you see, look at the tone compression over here. It's way up there. So as we drop it down, you know, but with this particular one, let's see if we go into this other one here. Let's go back into up here. And if you go into a balanced one, you can see it. You don't have that haloing going along here. But if you go back in here to Sinister, you definitely got some beginning of haloing. And if you're entering this in an image comp, they are definitely going to pick up on that. And so you really got to be aware of that. But you know, the defaults that they give you, I mean, they're kind of cool. You know, so you just kind of have to go with it. And then, like, say you like this one, but you want to change it up a bit. You know, every one of these sliders, you know, you've got total control over. You know, if you feel that one's too bright and, you know, the shadows are too bright, maybe the highlights are too. I mean, you can adjust every single one of these. And then once you apply it, I think I can. It puts it, you know, on its own layer in Photoshop. So then, you know, if you look at this and you say, well, that's a little too much, you can sit there and go up to the opacity, you know, and drop it down. Or you can go into the fill and drop it down. You know, I only want to make it, you know, 9% or say 95%. You know, you've got a choice. So that's the beauty of putting it on its own layer. And if you don't like it, trash it, or, you know, or you can go back into any of the other, you know, things and say you want to go back into the regular color effects. You can then launch it again and go into the other portion of the things and say we want to go into, let's go to my favorites. And I want to darken and lighten center. Let's get back to here. See, now I can, you know, do a light and darken center. I can place a center point here. I can take the center and make it, you know, smaller or bigger, you know, so I can just sit there and then apply it. And you can then add on filters and it tells you what you did. Darken, lighten here. Here you're in HDR effects. You know, you don't like that one? Fine, trash it. Or you know, you can go right back to the beginning. So it's got a lot of effects where you can continue to stack filters. And that's what I like about when you're doing it through Photoshop is that it puts each one, if you do them separately, it puts it on its own layer. I mean, you can also go back into color effects. And the one thing you can do here is, okay, good. I say I want to add tone contrast, so I'm going to add that one. I can go back in and then say add another filter. See, and it will stack it actually within the color effects program. So then you just say, oh, well, is that one, do I like that or not? You can just click on that little check mark and it will turn on and off the filters that you've applied. And if you like those, boom. So now you've taken these two filters and you're stacking it right back into the Photoshop. So there he goes. So now, you know, we started with, you know, the plain image. We went into the HDR. We went into darken, light, and center. And then we went into one where we added contrast, and then we added a coloring effect here. And you can see it, you know, it's actually kind of, you know, interesting. So you've got a lot of power in each one of these filters within Photoshop. So here's another one. And if we go start in at the HDR program, so we go into HDR. So this one's, you know, a little more, got a little more color, a little more highlight.
That's a single image on
This is a single
HDR.
capture. Yep. So again, we can go down and pick, or do we want something that really turns the sky blue? Or do we want to go back into, something that's a little more, weird, or something that's a little more structured with artistic, but again, this is a single capture HDR. So it's adding effects that are HDR type, but only to the single image, or we can go into realistic, here's a balanced version. So, before, after. So you can see it's a little more subtle. Okay. So say we want to start there. So we apply that, and now that's going to drop it back into Photoshop. And so, and now we can go back into the regular Color Effects Pro. And now we can start adding on some of the other stuff that we like. So now say we want to do some contrast here. We want to add some color contrast. And I'm kind of going overboard on these just to kind of show what it can do. But you can see, you can really play with it and then say, I want to go in and add some tonal contrast. So it's even added more, and then my favorite is to add in that sepia toning. Now you can, see that we went a little too far here. So maybe we go in here and we want to up the shadows, open them up a little bit, maybe the midtones, darken those down some, so you've got a lot of play here. Or you can say, I don't want to add that full filter. So you can adjust the filter right here. The strength, I can say just barely. So by adjusting the strength, you're really adjusting the tonality of that particular filter. So you've got quite a bit, and again, just apply and it puts it right back into Photoshop for you.
Mhm.
So even though you're using a single image, there are some capabilities here with the HDR program that kind of works on an image. So here's, a simple flower. And again, we'll go into the HDR. And this one kind of, you can really kind of play with it quite a bit because let's see, what are we going to do here? So under realistic, you got the default. Here's one that's a little more balanced. Here's a deep adjustment, a dark one. Or again, you can go kind of crazy, or you go into landscape. You got one it's got a little bit of vignette, or you got a little graduated filter, depending on which way you want. There's just a lot. So here's one that's got a little more daylight to it, so you've got before and after. So you can see it really does play with the image quite a bit. You go into landscape here, before and after. So we'll hit apply. Take it back into Photoshop. And say on this one here, we want to, let's just move this over just a bit. There we go. Drop that down a little bit. Maybe I don't want the full effect of it. And then I want to go back in and play with it some more. So I can go back into NIK. And you can also at this point also go in and do any of the Photoshop adjustments you want. So, here's before and after of that. So let's apply that. And just for grins. Okay, so now we say, okay, I want to remove something. So say, let's make this brush a little bigger. And say, I don't like this water spot here. Boom. So you can, so you've still got usage of all of your Photoshop tools while you're in here. So you're not limited to just, any of your NIK filters. And just for grins, you could even then now go into silver effects and turn it to black and white just for grins. And again, you can see each one of these goes on its own layer. So that's a little overkill there. Let's see here. How about now? Let's see what.
Could you manipulate that in black and white and then just the flower itself, go back to the yellow?
Sure, you probably could.
Just got to mask it off.
Just have to
Yeah,
mask it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna ask. Do you need to mask it? So,
Yeah, you will have to mask it. But
Okay.
you know, here we take it back in. Now we've got it in black and white.
Hmm.
You know. So you know, and that's one of the benefits of using NIK is that you've got all of these different tools, you know, and then of course, then you know, you could always go into you know, Photoshop and do something weird. You know, let's see here. What is it? A motion blur. Here we go. You know. You know, or maybe you want to go an up and down blur. So you know, so you've got you know, the adjustments that you can do or play with are, you know, pretty pretty boundless, really. So any questions? Any comments?
Have you tried the next it's called pre-sharpener?
That one right there?
Yeah, the raw pre-sharpener.
Let's open it up.
I just downloaded the 6,
Right.
so timing's perfect.
So so here's your image. And how much, you know, sharpening do you want? You know, you can adjust it, see?
Hmm.
You know, or you can adjust the opacity of it, you know, in terms of how much you want to use. Is your image high ISO? You can click that, or is it normal? You know, you can then adjust your effect overlay, and you can mask out part of it that you don't want sharpened. So you can see where your mask is here. You know, or you can do it by color range. So you've got, you know, so you got a lot of, then again, once you apply it, it puts it on its own layer. There you go, see?
Hmm.
You know, and then from there, if you wanted to go in and do your denoise, because it's got some noise in it, no problem. There's denoise. That's, see, and you can kind of see what it's going to do here. You can see the noise here versus what it's going to get rid of here. So you can see there's definitely some noise there. Apply, and boom, that filter's applied. And of course, right back into Photoshop on a different, you know, on its layer. The only problem with that one is you really, if you're going to apply the topaz, you need to add another layer so that it puts it on its own layer, because what it's done is it's put it on the last layer that was there. So if you're going to do any denoise, always add a new layer and put it on its own layer, because then you can adjust the opacity of it, or, you know, how much you want it applied with the fill.
One of the things,
No, that's exactly what I want to say. So
one of the things with NIK is once you add a filter, all the layers below are basically mute. You could turn them all off
But it won't
and
change the image, see?
they won't change the image.
Exactly.
So if you're thinking, well, let me turn off the color because it's going to affect it, it won't affect it at all.
Now you have to start at the top and work down and turn them off. Because if you turn the top one back on, basically it's put all of them back on.
Oh, okay.
You can see it doesn't change anything.
Now the sharpener in comparison to the fine, do you find they're basically about the same?
To be honest with you, I don't use the NIK softener or sharpener. I like what Topaz does.
Oh, okay.
Hey, hate to be a bummer. When you use NIK 6 pre-sharpener, I am starting to see some circular banding on
Yeah,
around.
you can see it right down here.
Yeah.
Yep, I would agree.
Okay, thank you.
See, turned it on, you can see it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I guess you can adjust the strength lower to get rid of some of that banding. I'm just
Right.
guessing.
But you know, it says here that it's a raw pre-sharpener, and I'm adjusting it to an adjusted image, so I don't know if that
Mhm.
matters or not,
Mhm.
because I don't know, but yeah, but it definitely, I see what you're talking. I mean, you can see it
Yeah.
all up in here as well.
Mhm.
So yeah,
Right.
it definitely,
Thanks.
I would agree with you on that one, Dwight.
Hmm.
So it's, you know, depending on whether you're using multiple images or single, you've got two different ways to use it within the NIK HDR side. You've got tone mapping, which is one image, or you've got the merging, which is for multiple images. And both of them have the exact same adjustments once you merge them.
Okay.
You know, and it's all part of the NIK package. You know, it's not an extra charge. It's all included.
Yeah, Mel, that was really good. I used to use NIK HDR a lot in the past, and I kind of gave up on it when Lightroom got better. But I realize now that there's a whole bunch of neat features that the NIK offers that Lightroom doesn't. That's good.
Yeah, the biggest thing, Roy, for me is, you know, because I do use multiple images when I shoot for the real estate agents because they won't allow me to use lights. So I've got to do the multiple images to get my, you know, my darks and my lights. And by using the HDR, I can then once, you know, because say you're shooting a house that's got, you know, 30 images, I can then set the recipe, save it, and apply the exact same recipe to every single image so that they are all consistent and look the same.
Yeah, that's a good point. I just realized I did a whole bunch of stuff in the slot canyons out by Page, Arizona a while back, and I didn't think to do them in NIK. And I'm gonna go back and do them in NIK now.
Yeah, and once you've adjusted your recipe to where you like it, you save it, and now you can apply all the images the same way.
Yeah.
You don't have to remember what was, you know, what did I do to this or that or whatever.
Yeah,
You
that's
know,
a great idea.
times where I might have something and I might have 3 different recipes for the same, you know, range of images. And I'll sit there and look at them and see which one I like best. And then I'll go through and apply that recipe to all of them. So
Yeah.
I'll do maybe a couple different test versions, see what the final one looks like, and then decide from there where to go.
Best
Yeah,
thing to
I've
do.
I've also had real good luck with the NIK silver effects for
Oh, yeah.
black and whites.
Yeah, their black and white conversion's great. I mean,
Yeah.
they give you a lot of options, and obviously, like any of the other NIK things, you've got a lot of different tools within it.
Mhm.
Mike, you were going to say?
Like I say, when you name your preset, make sure you name it something that's relevant, not just
Yeah.
preset 01, preset 02.
I will normally name it to, I'll call it interior, you know, strand house, so that I know which house I apply to, because, you know, the color balance on every place, depending on the lighting, is going to be different. So a lot of times you can't use the same recipe for every single location, you know, and if you're using it for an outdoor image, you know, the lighting outside may be different. So, you know, you may want to change it on that. So yeah, he's right. You know, you definitely name it to where you can figure out what it is, or you're going to be sitting there clicking on interior 1, interior 2, interior 3, trying to figure out which one you want, which can be a bit maddening at times.
That's how I know to change my names properly.
You know, it's kind of like naming your layers.
Yeah.
You know, you're sitting there clicking layers on and off to figure out which one had what adjustment.
And when it's only one small little piece of the puzzle, you can't find it.
Yep, exactly. So in a, you know, quick little thing, that's basically the HDR program portion of NIK, and you can see that it still, you know, relates directly back to all of the other ones. They all tie together, they all work within each other, and you know, you can stack them and, you know, go to town. But yeah, like Dwight said, though, you do have to watch that sharpening one because it did definitely create some banding.
Yeah. Okay.
But then
Right.
again, it's also really adding a lot in there. So that probably, affected it too, because I had the sliders moved quite a bit to the right just to, show the effect.
Way cool. Thank you, Mel.
Awesome.
Alrighty.
Yep. Thank you.
I love it when other people teach so I can learn stuff.
Yeah, I've been using the HDR program since it first came out for real estate images, and it's the easiest way because I have that limitation where I'm not allowed to bring lighting, which is for insurance reasons for the agents and that they don't want to have to deal with it. And I get it. It works. And it makes the shooting go quicker too. I mean, I can go through a 2,000 square foot house in 30 minutes.
And charge for 2 hours.
That's right. Now, granted, I get home and I've got 250 images, of which, they're all 5 image, brackets, but that's okay. When you get a recipe set, I mean, I can bang out that entire shoot in a couple hours, merging all the images and applying the recipe to it. So, it's a good way to go.
Can I assume after you do your HDR, you have your final image, and then you will correct for perspective lines on the
Yes.
final? Okay.
Yeah, I do that on my finals. Yeah. Because what I do is when my finals are marked, I'll go back in and star the finals, and then I'll bring up just the finals. And in Lightroom, I can sit there and select a bunch and just apply it and be done.
Cool.
Way cool.
Yeah. And
Any other?
with it putting the original back in the Lightroom within the stack, it's great.
Any other
You
questions
said-
out there?
You said you don't use RAW?
Well, I shoot in RAW, but I use Lightroom, so I don't use Camera Raw. I use
Okay.
Lightroom, which is basically the same thing.
Okay.
Yeah, I do everything in Lightroom and Photoshop. Camera Raw, Bridge, same thing. It's you want to do it in apples or do you want to do it in oranges? It's personal preference.
Bananas.
Or bananas. There you go.
More questions?
Oh, that was good.
No,
Going once,
cool.
going twice.
Kill the recording.